Yakmala! Yakmala! Welcome back, my friends, to the Cult Film Showdown. I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and I am super happy to be with you, and I am quite pleased to be joined by my good friends, and I have James Cotta.
I am thrilled to be back here for, if you can believe it, season 15.
15, you say? That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible. Wow.
15 long years.
15 long years, that's right. Well, Jack Hall, what do you think of this?
Sup? I can't believe I thought I was younger than that, honestly.
Yeah, you don't talk like it though. So it's there's trade-offs, but
yeah, I would have said much older. So.
And Nick Boxer, how old are you?
I am ancient and decrepit, but much like my favorite movie of all time, you know what? Let's just talk about Panther Squad. I don't want to compare this to other stuff.
So I have to know what your favorite movie of all time is now.
Oh, is it Titanic?
I think you know. It stars the mullet. And we just watched it.
That's true. Well, yes. This movie is not that movie. That's for sure.
No.
But it'd
be weird if it was.
Yeah.
Seems to me we would be making poor movie-going choices.
Why would we do two separate episodes?
Yeah, this movie does also have motorcycle riding and leather.
That's right, and a confusing storyline. So really, it doesn't matter. But
hey, I know a way to clear that up though, to get somebody to explain it to us.
Well, of course.
I have a theory of what to do.
First, we should tell people that we're talking about the magnificence of Sybil Danning, and just how sometimes some performer comes out and they're blessed with such talents that we feel like we need to see more of those talents. Ideally, and so Sybil Danning came up as a. And so this season is called Sybil-ance, all Sybil Danning.
Yeah, she had stuff coming up all the time. I don't know why we're only getting to do it now.
and so I look forward to, speaking of Sybil Danning and her charms and her talent, a lot this season. But for now, I look forward to Nick telling us all about Panther Squad, our first movie in this season.
Oh, yes. Well, Panther Squad from 1984 is a movie we watched. The plot revolves around the new organization of nations, a stand-in, obviously, for the United Nations. And we know it's called abbreviated NOON because they both spell out noon and tell us what the abbreviation is 3 times in the first minute and a half of this film. Well, Noon is launching the Space Jeep. For some reason, it's supposed to be good to have things in space. But a terrorist organization called Space Clean does not like this. This is an environmental group, and they don't want us polluting space. So they somehow hijack the navigational signal of the Space Jeep and kidnap the female backup pilot, the only other person that can fly the second Space Jeep up to go up and save the first Space Jeep. If that made no sense, it doesn't matter because this movie that's the first 5 minutes they sort of give it to you and then completely forget about anything I just said. All you have to know, a woman is kidnapped, and this organization calls in Sybil Danning and her Panther Squad to go save this pilot. And they do so with great aplomb. They use all their spandex pants and oddly placed belts to infiltrate an island that I never quite figured out how they knew that the pilot was on this island, but they seem to know. They had help from a Noon drunken agent, and these women with probably the most ill-conceived plan to find this kidnapped person ever, of, getting captured and just sort of waiting until they meet up with the pilot. I have no idea. And, Sybil Danning is looking good. And in the end, after I forgot completely that this was a space-type movie, she pulls out a laser gun with no prompting whatsoever. And it ends the movie dead right there. Mm-hmm. The world is saved with one laser shot.
That's actually that is nice to have you explain it to me, because this is one of those movies that sure, they actually probably do a good job of explaining the plot to you, but it's so boring in doing so that I space out and don't know what's going on when I come back to it. Because this is one of those movies that is like, the action sequences, I could watch those all day. These so-called action sequences, I could do that with air quotes, right? The action sequences, any fight or any sort of action sequence in this has my attention. I'm just enraptured. I'm just like, this is amazing. And everything in between those, which is about 60 of the 73-minute runtime or whatever it is like just boring, like incredibly boring.
I'm glad I got the summary from Nick, because I don't think I gathered a goodly chunk of that from the film itself. I think the action scenes are fun. I think it's such a mishmash. Like, I'd love to get more. Were you able to find any behind the scenes stuff on this movie?
There's so little on this movie. It doesn't have a Wikipedia entry. There's very little. All the trivia I could find is Sybil Danning kept the leather outfit after the movie. She wears.
I actually think I've seen it in other movies.
That's awesome.
Probably.
Because there's parts of this where it feels like just some of the weird editing, and there's a woman who keeps appearing and disappearing throughout the film.
Do you mean the drunk guy's bodyguard, who's awesome and should have been part of the Panther Squad?
The blonde, like
the
slightly
cigar smoking bodyguard. Yeah, she was awesome. You're right. She does disappear. I think I actually had a theory that she just slept in the back seat as our little drunken agent was driving around behind the action. But
because there's a point at which there's a bar fight that Sybil Danning's in, and then it cuts to that bodyguard woman who's also fighting. But she's not in any of the scenes with Sybil Danning. Like, she's not in a single shot with Sybil Danning. She's just like, it's like they pulled it out of a different film. So I love the weirdness of some of the way that this film is constructed. It just makes no damn sense at times.
There are bigger problems. Like, why does none of the Panther Squad take guns with them? Ever. They have no problem using them. They
don't need guns, man. I mean, all they need to do is basically slap somebody, and that person is down and out. I don't know. I mean, I remember enough of the China Salesman to see, like, every fight took 42 minutes of that movie, because it's just like, well, no, one hit, you're not knocking anybody out in that movie. In Panther Squad, a couple of nice, well-timed blows, and those guys are down and out for the count.
That's right.
Yeah, like everybody, like I say, the women there's a lot of good-looking women in the Panther Squad. Most of them fighting while wearing bikinis for no reason, which was fantastic. Almost made up.
There was a reason.
Oh, well. There was a reason, because we want to see hot chicks in bikinis.
No. The reason that was actually stated in the movie is that, well, like, why should we worry about women? Well, the women, will keep them happy. They keep the men happy.
Yeah, I know, but we all know that that's an excuse to put hot chicks in bikinis.
Well, sure, yes, of course. But
I actually had a bigger problem with why were they all wearing leather-studded belts in odd places, like as headbands and stuff?
Because that's the 80s.
It's the 80s, yeah, that was the style.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get away with that once, but 5 women all wearing these things looked kind of strange, because they were all obviously bought at the same place.
I just assumed that Sybil Danning actually dressed them all as well as, did everything, because this really seemed like It's an odd thing because I mean she produced the movie, and so it feels like a star vehicle for her that she really only cared about 20% of, because the rest of it is kind of like is really haphazard and seems slapped together. But some of those moments, like when she comes out looking good, she comes out looking good.
It does look good. No question about that. And that's the one thing, though. I mean, but is she the new record holder for the person who looks least like they can actually fighting in a movie? Like,
well,
like,
it might be somebody from the Panther Squad for sure. Like, there's no doubt.
A lot of them didn't look like they could ever. There was like one who looked like she was athletic enough to actually be able to kick ass. But Sybil Danning, I mean, that bar fight scene, that was the best, man. I watched that like 4 times because I don't know. And then the fight on the boat with the 2 chicks in the bikini, that was great too. Those are my 2 favorite fights. But because like the actual like the choreography, the fight choreography is so terrible.
I hope you used air quotes when you said choreography as well.
I believed she could fight more than I ever believed she could ride a motorcycle.
Even the character that she played couldn't ride a motorcycle very well, obviously.
I thought the dude who stunt double for her was great at that.
At least he was the right color.
I'm trying to figure out why this movie's rated R, though. I guess you only had PG and R back then, but I mean, like, other than
I went searching. I could find, like, I assumed there was a cut with nudity, and I went searching, could not find it.
Nope, does not exist. There's no nudity in this film. There's very little profanity, if any. There's like the violence is not that violent.
People get shot in the head, and there's no bullet wound. They just sort of fall over.
Just fall over. Yeah.
The thing I felt like about this movie is that this movie is one that succeeds despite itself because it's completely terrible. It completely has no good story. There is no nudity. The action sequences are quite terribly amusing, but at the same time, the whole thing is so haphazard that you're kind of like, it's kind of like watching a train wreck, but that it makes you laugh.
Yeah, at no time do you like. I had to check the time on it a couple times, and each time it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, I only have like 25 minutes left. I'm almost done. This is flying by, but at the same time, it's not a good movie, but I was enjoying myself.
73 minutes is a thing of beauty, especially when we had to do China Salesman, which was 73 hours last season. So it's a nice comeback. 73 minutes was I love that part of it. Yeah, like I say, I mean, everything outside, and tell you the truth, they went. You would get those action sequences spaced in enough that even though the other parts were just so boring, like you never did I would like want to leave the film or anything, you know, as boring as those were, because an action sequence that would make me just shake my head and laugh was right around the corner all the time.
I just love the fact that there's so much stock footage used in certain parts of the movie.
They obviously didn't have too much stock footage because what they went out of their way to make like space in this movie.
Oh yeah, so it's like a science fiction movie.
Why the
that
hell
definitely
do we have the space jeep in there at all, other than they had this footage?
Speaking of space, like they show us the rocket a couple of times. That's going to take this ship into space. And then they show us the space jeep, as you called it. And the ship has absolutely no relationship to how a rocket looks.
No. The ship...
unless you're just like the scale of the rocket is like half mile wide. Like, you know, it's just I don't have enough reference material to know that entire ship is inside the capsule. So I suppose there's that.
what got me was that the fact that this is a science fiction movie and they have these spaceships and jeeps and all this great technology, and yet every vehicle in this movie looks like by 1984 they were already 20 or 30 years old and broken down and just, I'm not sure what country this was filmed in, like
Spain.
Well, obviously there was some in Spain, but it also looked like some in Germany.
Brussels.
I don't know, maybe it was all Spain, but
IMDb says Brussels in Spain, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. But I gotta tell you, man, it's like the vehicles and stuff like that. If you can afford a spaceship, you should be able to afford a vehicle without rust in it for a movie. I don't know. Let's just say.
I just thought it was very amusing that they decided to hand all the speaking roles to people who couldn't speak English terribly well.
Well, including Sybil Danning?
Sybil being the exception.
I think she was the only naturally English speaker. I don't think they had any other choice. I mean, they obviously cast people that are local, and I think she was the only one who could really speak English in the whole movie. Well, I guess the drunk dude.
Yeah, he just did his best to slur all his words.
Yeah, well, he was the comic relief of the movie.
Well, it was
I say that with air quotes as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because like this movie is attempting to, kind of be the James Bond set where it's just like, Sybil Danning and her team are acting as the James Bond, and like, we've got the big clean space terrorist organization that's going to do something ridiculous for no good reason, and then of course, you've got your laser gun, but it's just like it's like they have that as part of the story, but then they forget about that for huge chunks of the movie, that's what they were intending, and mosey along their merry way with the rest of the story that we're all kind of like, interesting. What made you choose that?
Yeah. You know what? Let's go to scoring. Anybody object? Oh, wait. What did you learn from this movie? What did this film teach you?
I learned in a movie, if you're going to have a laser gun that looks like a hairdryer, don't keep it in a hairdryer case. It confuses audience.
Good point. Good point.
Don't forget they had a hairdryer that set people on fire too.
I learned that if you want to keep space free from littering, you have to fight for it.
Yeah, no, it is. I did appreciate the fact that their logic was, we let you pollute the Earth, we're not going to let you pollute space, because really, there's almost no room in space. Easy to.
I mean, let's putting aside that it's literally called space.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I learned? What I learned is that any member of the Panther Squad can truly kick any man's ass in a matter of basically a kick to the balls and then an elbow to the back of the neck.
And she doesn't even need to show her boobs.
That's right.
You think that one person, just one person in this terrorist squad would have had some combat training. Just one person once. If I learned that the best shield against bullets being shot at you is not to take cover, but to have big breasts that just clearly cause bullets to bounce off you.
I just think that it wasn't that they bounced off of her. I think it was more that they were so taken by the sight of her breasts that they couldn't aim straight.
Hey, I am pretty sure I saw a couple of them duck.
It's true. It's true. I think that a couple of them. Well, I mean, not all of them are as talented as Sybil Danning.
No, not in that way.
Not as talented as a Sybil Danning.
There's a sentence you don't hear often.
All right. Now let's go to scoring.
All right.
Scoring already. All right. In our search for the ultimate B movie, we rate each film in 5 categories. None of those categories is objective quality. The first one is called Schlock Appeal, and as always, we start with Stan.
Well, see, it's interesting that you say scoring already, but I think in the case of a movie like this, where it actually makes no real sense, and I think it was the same thing with Stone Cold, so much happens that's kind of just like, bleh, just spit out on screen, that it's just like, it's really hard to talk about one thing. So it's best we do that in scoring. This is the movie that made me want to do a season on Sybil Danning, because I watched about 15 minutes of it, and it was so completely ridiculous. The storyline was so over the top, like Clean Space taking over the space jeep, and Sybil Danning and the Panther Squad. All of that stuff seemed so ridiculous that I really wanted to get this on the show. I don't know overall how it will score, but I know that I enjoyed it a great deal, so I'm going to give it an 8.
Oh no, I'm going higher. This is Panther Squad. This is Fox Force 5, but in real life in a movie. I loved it.
Made as much sense as the movie.
They weren't talented and it's barely watchable. Shouldn't affect its lockability score. So 9.
Yeah, I'm going lower. I say 1/3 of the movie is action, 2/3 is not action, and all the non-action didn't work for me. But the action was schlocky as hell. The action sequences are a good 9 or 10, but the rest of the movie drags it down to a 6 on my end.
I think it's called Panther Squad. I think it has poorly formed characters who are played by actresses wearing bikinis through the entire thing. So 8 for me.
That is a good point. And is Panther the name of the Sybil Danning's character? I didn't get that. I think she's
Ilona or the Panther. Yes.
Or the Panther.
She calls herself, yeah, she says she's the Panther. Yeah. Some people call me the Panther. I think it's something like that.
That's what Fox you said. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people call her the Panther. Other people call her just Panther. Mrs. Panther.
Some people call her the Space Cowboy.
Yeah. Some people call her Maurice. Right,
or the Gangster of Love.
Is More Heart Than Budget, and we couldn't find any information on this movie.
No, we couldn't, including the budget. It can't have been much.
Whatever they had in the cushions, I think.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, like, when you talk about everything that they didn't bother spending money on, I mean, I think they spent the most money on that leather outfit that Sybil Danning decided to take with her, because that was the best thing about it. It's really hard because I feel like I want to give this a higher score because of my enjoyment, but at the same time, they really didn't do that much, even with 12 cents, so I'm going to have to give it a 5.
I believe these actors and actresses were not in an active hostage situation making this movie. I believe they were all there of their own volition. And I believe that there was absolutely no budget. There was just some stock footage. So I'm going with a 5 as well. Really middle of the road. They didn't have anything and they didn't do much with it. So 5.
I don't know. I think for a movie that clearly had no money, they tried to do action sequences. They just didn't have the money. And, they tried to do a special effects shot at the end there. They did it as cheap as possible because they had no money or skill to do any of it. I think it's a 7 for me.
Yeah, I also think that I think they stretched what they had. As I said,
including that outfit.
They definitely economized on the material to make that outfit. They did not use a square inch more than they were legally required to. And as I said, there's a couple of spots where I'm pretty sure they use footage from something else, probably some failed movie that they tried to put together. So 7 for me as well. What the fuck moments?
Well, you talk about where they didn't spring for things, and one of the areas that they did not spring for things was in sound effects, because in the opening there is numerous times where they are firing off guns and there is absolutely no sound. So you think to yourself, oh, okay, it's just the amazing theme song from Steve Stone. She's tough and tender. And you think that that's all. And then there'll be one random gunshot that kind of times out to one of the 6 shots that they're firing. And that actually kind of continued as a theme throughout the entire movie, where it was just kind of like, there should have been a sound effect here, but they just did not bother putting those in. There's so much. I mean, every single action sequence deserves to be in the WTF. There's no doubt about it. And when you talk about that bar scene, it's WTF out the wazoo, because there's things happening that really are just completely, well, like you say, look like they belong in a different movie. So, I mean, I do love those as well. Right near the end, there's this point where, of course, we've figured out that it's on this island, and there's the general who's having a party and explaining how he's going to take over the universe because he partnered with the terrorist organization Clean Space, and how because he controlled the space jeep, this was going to give him control of the universe, and he would eventually take over the world. And then they show the shot outside of his army, which I would say is an army of dozens, perhaps. It was.
Hey, they spaced them out pretty good for the area they had.
Oh,
they
yeah,
tried.
for sure.
They didn't have enough soldiers, but they tried to get coverage.
Yeah, it's an interesting case, like I'm not completely sure how he was going to manage to take over the world, because I'm not sure that the space jeep was weaponized in the first place, but that's okay, not up to me to decide these things. Then afterwards...
No, I can tell you, the thing they took to do the navigation thing, to trap the space jeep in space, if they could, when they have complete control of the space jeeps, they could broadcast that down and somehow blow up all the nuclear power plants.
Oh, right.
He explained that in great detail. Not in, real English, but...
He did a lot of yelling, I'll give him that. I also liked when we returned to that party and they'd come back at one point, and there's this one extraordinarily drunk woman who's just yelling and tossing her glass around and stuff like that, and I was just like, why? What? That seems so random and out of place that just her being drunk.
They all got they were all trying to act drunk, and they got drunk very quickly too, because that scene's 5 minutes long from...
Well, they're all such incredible. Everybody outside of the Panther Squad in this movie is such an incredible cartoon caricature.
Yes.
That none of it. That's what I was thinking, looking at it, looking at. Oh, if this is a cartoon, this is exactly what people would be doing right now, and that made sense to me.
And then, of course, finally we have the super destructo ray that nobody has talked about leading up to this point, but right now we need a way to get out of this movie fast. So she pulls out the super destructo ray, eliminates all the people in the jeep, and alas, we are able to go home. So
I think you're underselling eliminates the people in the jeep. She shoots the laser ray, and they glow, and then they completely vanish.
Yeah, all of them, every particle. What I'm wondering is right before she takes it out, you get the voiceover that was apparently said when she was given it. Only use this as the last resort. I'm like, why? Why not use it all the time?
There is both no reason why you only use it as a last resort, and no reason why they use it at the time they do.
Yes,
that's a twofer.
Was it a one-shot kind of thing? Was it like an Omega Cop kind of gun where you could use it one time and have to throw it away?
Think about this. I was concentrating on her blowing on the gun.
well, that's just because she's cool.
There's no bullets coming out. It's not. We don't see. It's not hot. It doesn't look like it is. Oh man, looks like it shoots water. So yeah.
But and again, nothing even blows up, which is the best part. So they didn't even have the budget to make the Jeep blow up. Well, probably because it's probably the director's Jeep.
Is there a single? I'm trying to think back. I don't think there was a single an action movie in the 80s without a single explosion. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, I think this is eschewed all of the typical action movie tropes, and just gone with low budget nothing. So for that reason alone, I will give this an 8.
Oh. Yeah, no, the WTFs in this movie are insane. You mentioned the sound effects, but I had the opposite problem. There are a couple scenes in here that all the dialogue is drowned out by crickets.
It's not the best recorded audio, that's for sure.
No, it certainly is not. No,
I don't think those were real crickets. I think those were after made-up studio crickets, but okay.
Well, obviously,
I thought it was just bad
to get some crickets into the studio to do voiceover afterwards than the actual actors.
ADR crickets. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, ADR crickets.
Yeah, no, the plot made no sense whatsoever. The fact they explained the acronym NOON 3 times in the first 2 minutes of this movie blew me the freaking away. Having a sci-fi elements in there for no apparent reason. I mean, this movie would have been much more solid if it was just, girl gets kidnapped, Panther Squad is on it. The fact that they keep leaving the guns in the car for no apparent reason. The fact that nobody seems to need to wear camouflage. No. A low-cut halter top is the perfect action wear for this type of operation. It's not like they didn't have time to change. The fact that they're trying to keep space clean, that's the bad guy's motivation. What the hell? 8.
Well, no, but it's the worst part. It's the terrorist organization's thing. But the general who has partnered with the terrorist organization, I mean, the terrorist organization, Clean Space, is like, we actually don't want to take over the world. So we're kind of out. I gotta say, we're out, It's just like, wow, you've just added a whole nother layer of complexity to this movie at, the 65-minute mark that we actually didn't need. Did you score it, Nick?
Yeah, 8.
Yeah. Are you done?
Yeah. I'm sure there's stuff I'm missing, but we got 2 more people here. I'll leave it to you.
Okay. All right. I mean, for me, the music in this film was all over the place. Like, the music very rarely matches the actual action that's going on. It could be you have like science fiction sounding music sometimes when it doesn't fit, but you don't have science fiction movie music happening when it would. Like, it's just all over the place. My favorite, we've mentioned a whole bunch of the WTFs already, but I'm going to mention my favorite. Okay. My single favorite WTF in this whole thing. Okay. So there's a point where the bad guys get away in a car. And the Panther Squad is chasing after them. They get away in the car, and then coincidentally, the drunk dude that we mentioned that's like their liaison pulls up in a car. So their choice, when they have a car there where the other guys have gotten away in a car, is for them all to turn and start running down the street, ignoring the car, trying to catch a car.
No, they ran towards their vehicle.
They wouldn't all fit in the little car.
Ah, come on.
No, they totally did.
No, it was edited weird. I got briefly confused there too. But
so did I.
So they're running towards their car. You'd think at least 2 of them would jump in this one because it's right there, right then. Because that's when Sybil gets on the motorcycle coming up.
They didn't want to support drunk driving.
Oh my! They could have drove. That's another thing in this movie, by the way. If Sybil Danning's there, she's driving. There's a point where she gets picked up in the Jeep, chasing these people. They stop to pick her up after the motorcycle. The person bothers to get out of the car and let her get in and drive.
Well, she
Well, that
is
was weird.
the leader of the Panther Squad, but yes, that was very strange. But that was and that was after she proved that she can't drive a motorcycle. So
Yes, I know, but she drives. I don't know.
Actually, did the bad guy shoot the motorcycle? Why did she crash? I never quite understood that.
I think they shot at it. I'm not completely sure. I don't think they hit it, but I think it was enough
I thought
to.
they hit her, but she just popped up just fine.
Yeah, I think it was just enough to kind of knock her,
And
off
I've watched
balance.
enough movies to know when motorcycles get shot, they explode.
Well, it's true.
This film is the opposite of so many of the films we've watched, where a pebble will hit a windshield and cause something to explode. Like, this is the opposite end. They could have shot this thing with like a rocket launcher and nothing would explode. But yeah, no, it's there's also the scene where the lead villain, he's kind of the dictator, whatever type lead of the terrorist group, just him, he's at like a window or whatever and giving a little speech, and he's just all maniacal, and it's just like so over the top awesome. I think this has some strong WTF, so I'll give it a 7. I think 7's a respectable score.
I just want to clarify what Jack said there. I also had that same moment of why are they just running down the road? That is not when Sybil Danning gets on the motorcycle.
Okay.
They are separated by about 10 minutes. It's 2 different times that they have to get in cars and drive after bad guys that are about 10 minutes apart, which is actually worse. But it's that
speaks to the whole thing where I say it's boring in between anything that's action, where you just space out.
Nick nailed it though. Is that what's missing is there isn't the short shot of them arriving at their vehicle, so it goes from them running on the road to them stopped in the Jeep like 3 minutes later. They don't actually enter the Jeep. That's why that's why the editing is so confused. I had the same thing of like, when did they get into a car? And I actually had to actually go back and go, okay, there is a car, but it's like for some reason a couple of 100 meters away from where they're standing. Like there's no reason why it should be parked where it is. But I think structurally there's some weird stuff in this movie.
You don't say.
I'm going to jump right close to the end where one of the scientists is going to help them sabotage some stuff. I think.
I could never figure out whether he was a good guy or a bad guy.
No, he was part of Clean Space.
Then what was he doing?
Because that was the thing, right?
What stopped him? Nothing stopped him. He's still alive at the end of the movie, tinkering with the machinery.
Well, and this is actually the real crux of the whole movie. If you break it down, so Clean Space leaves. The president shoots the head of Clean Space. So then, his second in command or whatever, or fourth in command, his scientist of Clean Space comes and is just like, oh, you must destroy it. You must avenge us. You must destroy it. And so then he goes and destroys the actual, like, the president's, or the general's, control over it. And so if you look at it like that, we actually don't need the Panther Squad in this movie whatsoever.
Because the scientist guy, he does something at a machine that looks like it's a thing, and then they show the outside of the building, and there's all this electricity coming off of it, and then they cut to the drunken control guy. Their drunken contact who steps out of his car and he looks up, and then it shows the building without electricity coming out. And I watched that scene 3 times trying to figure out what in the hell just happened.
He just ruined the general's control over the space jeep, and he
seemed to draw information from seeing the building with a little electricity and then seeing it not. That I could not draw.
Obviously, because you're not a spy.
That's, as far as you know, that's true.
That is
Would you tell us if you are?
Well, I don't think I mean, technically, I'm not allowed, I guess.
Single.
If one were to be a spy.
Well, you are allowed if you're not a double agent.
You're obviously a very
it's
deep
not like
cover.
in the movies where if you say, like, are you a cop, the guy has magic, that there's it's like magic words and the guy has to tell you if he's a cop.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know what you're wearing right now. Because in the movies you can always tell if somebody's a cop. I mean, look at Stone Cold, right? And so,
and a red carnation.
Pink and lacy, isn't it?
So 77 minutes. The first 3 solid minutes of this is the opening credits and footage of some of the Panther Squad who are never given names doing target practice.
Mm-hmm.
True. What an opening.
And then we have a
Sybil
couple
Danning
of...
wasn't one of them either, was she?
Sybil Danning was not one of them. Yes, that's correct. The Panther Squad then doesn't appear for like an hour on the 7-minute movie. Roughly 45, 50 minutes, something like that. More than halfway through the film before we actually...
But those girls can put on eye patches in that scene.
You betcha.
Yeah, well, how does that improve your aim? Or is it just supposed to be more of a challenge if you have no depth perception? What's going on there?
It's because the thing is that when you're aiming, like, it's usually you'd want to close one eye while you aim and just use your one eye so that you're not getting, like, too...
Yeah, because you're trying to look down the barrel and line up sight. That has to be aligned with one eye.
But the problem is that that's a ridiculous method of training somebody who's going to be out in the field where you're not going to suddenly slap on an eye patch the second that you enter a firefight.
Keep them from it, but this just doesn't show up again.
But on the other hand, is that they so rarely enter into an actual firefight that it really shouldn't matter in the first place. Move me up to a 10 because I just realized that there's so much wrong with this movie that I can't explain any of it now.
And then we have some of the establishing background. We're starting to get a bit of the story. We got what Clean Space is all about. We've got what Noon is all about. And then we have 4 solid minutes of people talking on phones. Mm-hmm. None of whom will be central characters of this film. And one of them is the guy that, he seems to be the head honcho. And he's in an office, is a pretty sizable room, with the fakest city skyline out his window, at his balcony that I've ever seen. It actually looks from like the cityscape that's at in the credits sequence of Troma movies. It's ridiculously fake looking, like for no reason either. And I guess the no reason part. There's a point where one of these dudes, one of the many several dudes, phones phones NASA, and it's just a room with a bunch of big computer terminals at it, so I assume it's NASA. And he tells them that they have to adjust their trajectory. And the guy says, well, if I adjust the trajectory, I have to adjust the orbit, which isn't a thing. And then he says, well, I need you to do it anyway. So he hangs up the phone and he tells the other guy, I need you to change the trajectory. And he says, we shouldn't do that. He said, well, you heard the man. Well, no, he didn't. You were on the phone.
I know. I had that down because the line that they use is absolutely priceless because I was considering it for my memorable moments because it's wonderful. It's this whole idea. You heard what the man said. It's just like, well, no, of course he didn't.
Do you not understand how phones operate? Like, I don't... that being among the many, many things I cannot explain in this film, 9 for me. Memorable moments.
Oh, the thing about this is that, and the fact is that first 20 minutes that I watched originally was more than enough to make me want to watch this. And what I'll never actually forget is Clean Space breaking in over the stock footage with this really terrible, like, Clean Space logo and just how really cheesy and terrible that opening is. in that, I mean, what is that opening? Like 10 minutes worth of time overall, where it's basically a dude in a room, and that's about it. The rest is stock footage for the most part. I mean,
you mean the press conference dude who
yes.
He has like a sheet of paper. He doesn't even have a podium. It looks like a box with a cloth over it, and he's got a series of stars on that look like a flag, but it's not too hard to tell that they're painted onto the wall and poorly. And then he reads from like loose leaf paper.
Yes, I mean, it's like those kind of things. I mean, just from having seen them a little bit, it's amazing. Obviously, Sybil Danning in that outfit is amazing, and I think she will be a memorable moment from most of these movies. But I think that it's one of those cases where there's a lot of Panther Squad that will get jumbled up. If anybody mentions Panther Squad, it'll just be kind of like this big rush of words that would come out of my mouth that may be different each and every time, much like this movie. I'll give it a 6.
Wow, you went high. I am not going high on this one. It had a movie called Panther Squad starring 6 sexy women with guns. This should be tattooed on my brain. This is the kind of movies I should like. Unfortunately, it's shot so poorly, edited so poorly, and since the story makes no dent in my head whatsoever, I have to go low. The best I can say about this movie as far as memorability is that I really like Andy Sedaris films, and because this is sort of marketed like one, and it gives you none of what those films promise.
Those films will give you
no real
nudity.
Good action.
You are guaranteed nudity in Andy Sedaris.
Yes,
Yeah.
In the first 5 minutes. So yeah, I'm only going as high as a 3.
Yeah, I'm not even going that high. I got a 2. The only thing memorable about this is that outfit. Everything else that you mentioned, I think, could be qualified under WTF, under more so than memorable moment. Memorable moments are things that are cool that will stick with you. There's nothing cool about this. That's part of its charm.
Oh, come on. I love
That's part of
stock
its charm,
footage is amazing.
Okay, all right, but I won't remember stock footage. The reason it's called stock footage. I will remember that outfit. It's a great outfit. It puts the 2 central characters of the movie front and center. That outfit does.
Hell, I think that outfit is used in one of the Andy Sedaris films. Now that I think about it,
it probably is.
God, I have to watch Malibu Express again.
Yeah. There's an excuse to do that. I'll give you that for sure. Yeah, so I'm only giving it a 2. It's weak in this. That's what happens when you don't have enough money to even have an explosion.
I think it won't be the narrative; it'll be the pieces that I will remember. But it is one of those many that the what the fuck's off balance the memorable. So I'll split the difference 4 for me. Crazy concept.
What's crazy about this is just that it makes no sense whatsoever. But I think the concept itself. I mean, okay, so keeping outer space clean because you've made a mess of the world. That's a weird concept, but I think overall, like the idea of like a woman Panther Squad going after a terrorist organization, kind of a super secret spy thing going on, like all these things are terribly typical of the 80s, but. The thing that is crazy is just the fact that it makes no sense in and of itself within that structure. But, I can't give it too high a score. I'll go 4.
I was actually going to go even lower than that until you mentioned the space stuff again. I went, yeah, that's sort of part of the concept, is it? God damn it. Because the Panther Squad, we got sexy women going to kick ass. That's a whole genre to itself, and that's what this movie should have been. And for the majority, it was. But then you add in, we got Noon launching space stuff, and we actually go to space for a second, and there's a laser gun at the end. So that bumps it from, I was going to go with a 2, all the way up to a 4.
Yeah, a group of hot chicks kicking ass is like an 80s direct-to-video, concept that was done a billion times.
And he's based an entire career off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not the only one.
God,
but we could have chosen that one, Amazon Warriors or whatever it was called, that would have been the same thing too. That didn't get picked for this season. It's not even. It's like there's at least 3 or 4 films of Sybil Danning alone that could fit under this. So for that it's a -2. But then I take everything else, and everything else is a 10. The space stuff, the fact that it has the content, it's a movie with these hot chicks that has content level about what you'd see in a made-for-TV movie as far as violence and sex and everything is concerned. And just like the overall, like just all of it, the science fiction thrown in, all that stuff is a 10. So -2 for the generic overall concept, but the concept within the concept is strong. So an overall 8.
Yeah, it's funny because when you think about it, it's just like, now that I think about the pitch, like, yeah, okay, so we want to make an action film, but we don't want to put any action. Okay, you've got lots of women. How about nudity? Yeah. Well, no, we don't want to put any nudity. Okay, explosions. There must be explosions. No, we don't have the budget for that. Okay, what do you have? Well, we have a laser beam that doesn't actually shoot anything out of it, or it has a quick laser beam that then makes a Jeep disappear. Yeah. It's just like, okay.
That's exactly it, though. I mean, it's all a 10, except for the generic overall concept.
I think when you separate out the heroes of the piece from the plot, I think you end up with some different math, because James Bond would be the archetype of, someone fighting this kind of organization. James Bond is a 1 as far as crazy concept goes. If you put this plot in a James Bond movie, it would be insane. This is like all of the weirdest parts of Moonraker and World Is Not Enough at the same time, which are about a 7 as far as crazy.
That's actually true. That's a good point.
Moonraker might be an 8 or 9. I'm only going to go to a 6, but I think that I think it's the central plot is what is all the weirdness for me.
Yeah, that's basically what I said. Central plot -2, so
yeah,
8. So you scored it an 8, is what you're saying?
More or less.
Yeah.
in that ballpark. All right. Well, being a blessed 77 minutes, we give a bonus for being under 80, so it gets a +1 for that, bringing its final total to a respectable 64 out of 100, which puts it right behind Fatal Deviation and right ahead of One Down, Two to Go, which I honestly do not remember what that is.
Oh, that's the one that had
the blaxploitation.
Yeah, in this mustache season, it was on Tubi, and it was like,
oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
and asked me to remember.
Were at night and nothing was lit. Starring black guys that you couldn't see.
Yeah, ask me anything else about the movie, like what the hell the rest of the movie was about. Yeah. Forget it. No, I'm done.
But all those mustaches, it had so many. It had so many.
Oh yes, that's right. That's the one with like the all-star mustaches, right?
Yeah.
All right. Glad we had a moment to talk about that.
Right. It's good to remind ourselves of things that we've forgotten.
Yeah, it puts it in. That means it's in about the top half of the Octagon.
Yes,
it might be the half.
I hope not for memorable moments now, though.
No, I mean this film at 64 is about exactly the halfway point on the Octagon.
All right, fair enough. Yes, no, this is a silly movie, and I enjoyed watching it. So really, that's what matters.
Actually, this and One Down, Two to Go would have been like a really long double feature.
Like, how can anything be long when this is 73 minutes?
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask about that. I was kind of just trying to think. But, all right, so let's do some business now. It's exciting business.
Oh, we have an exciting announcement that half of our hosts do not even know about. This is so new. This is so fresh. We have launched a Patreon, Cult Film Showdown. Just search Patreon for Cult Film Showdown. Patreon.com/Cult Film Showdown, whichever way you'd like to arrive at website. All of those will work. I don't know how much you know about the internet. We're just setting it up now, so we're hope by the time you actually hear this, we will have many things on here of how it's going to work and everything. But basically, we're setting it up so that you can help us keep this thing running, keep the wheels on.
The lights on and the movie's playing. That's all we're.
I like that. Yeah. All right. We are also on Instagram at Cult Film Showdown. We are also on we're sponsored by WeTalkPodcasts.com. They have a Twitter, they have a Facebook, and we're on YouTube at Cult Film Showdown.
Awesome. And next movie, we are going to be talking about Sybil Danning, sort of, in Hercules. But that's...
What are the Patreon? So what are the awards? That's when you talk about Patreon, you have to give them the awards so they know what they're getting.
Literally set this up 2 hours ago. So we'll have... By the time you hear this,
usually you would say what is in the Patreon so that they can go.
Yes,
you get this content early, or you get this. But it'll be something cool by the time you're said and done. Is what you're saying?
We're absolutely.
By the time we have this season out, then there will be much cool stuff added. But yes, Hercules is coming up next as we carry on with our Sybil-ance season. So I don't think I have anything more to say. Does anybody else? Sybil-ance, yes. All right. So for Jim and for Jack and for Nick, I am your host, 8th Dan Stanadu, and thanks for listening to the Cult Film Showdown.
Our aim is clean space. We are an anti-pollution commando. If you don't cancel your poisonous space program, your astronaut will remain spinning up there forever. Sybil Danning is the Panther. Frank is Jack Taylor.
This time in the morning. You here for the sun and the fun?
No, I'm here for the action.
Yankee, go home.
Wrong game. I play football.
Oh, you do? What position?
What else? Kicker. Be back in a minute.
What next? Cadillac?
Missed.
Sybil Danning is the Panther, and...
This is the Panther Squad. And this is Frank, our man in Guasaurus. Claims he works for the consul. Say hello to Frank. Hello to Frank.
Danger. It fills the streets. If you like James Bond, if you fear Rambo, you'll love those exciting Panther girls.
There is nothing and no one to stop me now.
Surrender or I'll blow your Nikes off.
Better make friends with them. Those girls of the Panther